my concept for negotiation was that because there's a class called a politician, right? So presumably there would be disputes among townspeople. They'd be in an argument, or someone would be belligerent, and as a role, you'd have to negotiate with them, and it'd be very similar to the idea of fighting them, right? You have to do a certain amount of negotiation to calm them down. So if your class is really bad at negotiating, you could waste a lot of stamina, a lot of turns trying to calm somebody down. Dr. Arrows asks, what language did I learn first? I started off, some people are going to frown at saying HTML, but it's kind of a mixed bag of HTML, CSS, and PHP. But I do consider HTML my first language, simply because there was so much discipline when I started learning it had to be used, because it was so Wild Westy and there were so many things to account for. And then that's really where I got my taste for it. I was like, I like building things, right? And I like when I can build things using rules. And so then PHP, and I was not a good PHP programmer. And I don't think anybody was back then. Talking 12 years ago. Okay, so then heal. Heal looks pretty good so far, but and it seems so redundant to keep doing this the same way every time. Like, I know. But it really does help. It helps to put your hands on it. At least it does for me. As a how do I get to the right answer? You got to pay for it, right? The universe gets its due. So for me, the way I get to the right answer is by putting my hands on the code, by typing it out over and over again and looking at it. I can't just anecdotally say, I need to refactor this, close out the window, and go run off and get a cup of coffee. I need to start really paying those pain points and writing the code over and over again and really looking at it and kind of helping that to massage my brain into, how do I fix this? This ends up being not too bad. The challenge of it's going to be, there's a dozen ways to skin the cat, right? I can throw the response at the bottom and only set some variables, so I'm not calling this over and over again. I just change this to message, and I save. So I'll set to assign a message to something. I could pretty easily, I'll just show you. Pretty easy to get rid of that. Do a string message. Change that to message. Break. And then down here someplace, do my sets of those two. So I'd save a few lines, but like I said before, with some of these, you're really gonna, with a dozen ways to skin that cat, don't do it if A, you aren't certain about the change you want to make, and most importantly, it's not going to gain you any performance. It really follows the adage that pre-optimization is the root of all evil, especially because we aren't done yet, right? So this thing could change in so many ways that the pattern or approach that we take to refactoring now, needlessly, could very easily prove itself to be an anti-pattern. And I stress that only because we've all been there, and I can't say don't be that person, because you're going to be. I might have been that person this week. It just happens. But you got deadlines, you got something you need to get done. You've seen in this stream where one refactor can lead to 50 errors. You have to go track those down. Don't invite that misery on yourself when there's better things to focus on. Make it a do note, or just make a mental note and say, I can make this better, but now is not the time. Dr. Eros asks, how long have you been working on this game? So it was 6 weeks. So we started off with the factory pattern. So I'm going to do it quick before I do anything more on this. I'm going to come right back over to here. So this is for you, Dr. Eros. In GitHub, and the link is somewhere in the channel area below, you can find the MudZ game. And you can see these 37 commits. So if we go into the commits, you'll see flyweight pattern day 3, day 2, day 1, state pattern day 3, day 2, state pattern implementation kickoff. And so we go all the way back down, so we updated the README, and we said building out more of the game to hit the end of the factory pattern. So let's just go to this one. So if we go back to the very first video, which is also down there in YouTube, you can see us learning the factory pattern and then writing out this very basic factory pattern game. Didn't do anything. All you could do was create people. We're giving them very basic names and types because we wanted to have a player factory. We created an NPC factory, and then we just used the factory to do a few things. So come back. So if you go and you clone that commit, you're going to see just the factory stuff. If you come up here to the strategy pattern, you're going to see those two patterns, factory and strategy, and then factory and bridge, then factory, bridge, and command, then factory, bridge, command, and state, and then factory, bridge, command, state, and flyweight. So those are our 6 weeks. And by putting those 6 things together and only using what we've learned along the way, so we don't try to jump ahead, and again with the caveat there's some basic OOP stuff and some basic inheritance stuff, but we're trying very hard to use only what we know and see how far that gets us. So, and we've done quite a lot in 6 weeks. And I've only done a little after hours coding just to kind of proof out some stuff, but honestly, if you see files here, and there's a lot of them, we did it in that 6 weeks. So, quite a bit. Okay. So, oops. Let's go back over to our base actor. So, we solved one problem, which is if the person is exhausted, well, it cannot respond. So let's go ahead and start the game and see what happens. We're going to fight Beth. And we've already proven that we're not strong enough and we don't enough to destroy Beth with the turns we have. Oh. So we hit 0 stamina, and then we get the output of Gary begins to move and then collapses. So now we can't actually do anything. Can I heal Beth? Nope. I fight Beth. Can I even look at Beth? I can look at Beth, right? That goes to that bypasses our basic 4 channel. So you should always go look at somebody. You can't do our 4 commands, which are fight, repair, negotiate, and heal. And actually, so now you're exhausted. And you can't do anything. That's good. So we've proven that we can use our command pattern and our state pattern to interpret these commands and add some richness to the game. And in our world, you'd be done for the day. You've got 20 turns for the day, and we might decide that as you level up, you get more stamina, so you can do more things. But the idea being here is that now you have to wait for the next day. And if you couldn't kill a zombie, then the next day there might be 2 zombies, right? Or if the problems you had to face were negotiate with the townsperson and repair the wall, if you spent all of your time negotiating with the townsperson and now you can't repair the wall, then a zombie might get in the next day. So this is kind of the idea behind the stamina and the strategy in the game of deciding how do you spend these points and where. Later on, when we get kind of past this deep dive review and we really get some legs to the engine, we're definitely going to look at how do we implement multiple players, because it's going to take some teamwork, right? You're going to need more than one person to be able to fix these problems. Okay. So, we've implemented some functionality here. We have taken a dive into both the state pattern and the command pattern. That feels good. We've added some more methods to help with checking state. We factored out some algorithms where they shouldn't be. And again, this is an algorithm, right? Even this simple check. And I like to encapsulate all algorithms as their own methods. And it gives us the ability, it's going to save you some time later. And so instead of having to find everywhere in your code where you check to see if the stamina is less than or equal to 0, you can just change in this one place and rest assured that anything that's trying to call it's exhausted is going to use the same algorithm. Okay. So, we can't kill Beth. I do want to test that. So, we got a minute or 2 left in our hour. So I made Gary a carpenter. Let's take a look at our strategy pattern. So we implemented our classes via strategy pattern. So instead of the carpenter, I've got this. So when I attack, I adjust stamina. And when I heal, I adjust stamina again. So the problem with this approach is I run into a situation where I only have 2 stamina left, and there's nothing to stop me from negotiating because I never check to see if I've got enough stamina to perform this action. And I can't check that because this is hard-coded here. I don't have access to it from the outside. So in our strategy pattern, and so I got a player action strategy. So it's very simple. Let's do this. Let's say that every player action strategy should implement a dictionary. And let me just go back over the carpenter real fast. Make sure I'm doing what I really, really want to do. Okay. So every strategy should come with